Hello friends, I'm Navina and today I will read another funny story from the September 1982 issue of Chandamama. The story's name is The Priest Who Forgot His Face. In the city of Varanasi lived an old Brahmin who was the king's priest. He was a learned man. He was also well known for his knowledge of astrology. The king had great respect for him. The priest had a rival in another old Brahmin known as a Pandit. The Pandit was as learned as a priest, if not more. What pained the priest was even his own wife admired the Pandit. It is true that he is no astrologer like you, but he has studied the scriptures thoroughly, said his wife, and he explains difficult topics so well. This no doubt caused heartburning in the priest. Perhaps he also feared that the Pandit might one day draw the king's admiration. This fear made him hate the Pandit. But who would have thought that he wanted the Pandit dead? Unfortunately, this is what he did. He kept thinking of ways and means to put an end to the Pandit's life. And one night he hit upon a novel idea. "My lord," said the priest to the king confidentially in the morning, "the eastern gate of the city is not situated in the right place. As I came to know through astrology, it ought to be closed down and a new gate has to be made. Otherwise, much harm might come to you and the citizens. If that is the case, we must demolish the old gate forthwith and build a new one. Will you please point out the exact spot where the new gate should stand?" asked the king. "I have already located the spot. I have also found out that the auspicious hour for laying the foundation for the new gate will come tomorrow at sunset," replied the priest. "Fine. You have always been wise and good," commented the king. The flattered priest said, "My lord, I will also like to say something more, only with your welfare in my mind. The foundation should be laid on a human being. My sacred book says that he should be a Brahmin who is old, toothless, and is totally bald." "I see. Must he be buried alive?" asked the king. "Yes, my lord. That is the only way to stop any evil from entering the city through the new gate," said the priest. The king looked a bit thoughtful. "The question is, where to find such a man?" he murmured. "Never mind that, my lord. I think I can locate such a man," said the priest quite enthusiastically. "Can you? Thanks a lot. Please do the needful," said the king, feeling relieved. He then called one of his officers and placed him at the priest's disposal. The priest asked the officer to meet him in the morning with some sepoys. The priest went home in high spirits. Needless to say that the man he had in his mind was the Pandit, his rival. The Pandit was old, toothless, and bald. While dining, he giggled. Curious, his wife asked him, "What's the matter? Why do you laugh?" "I'll tell you if you're interested to know. The Pandit of whom you are so fond of will be buried alive tomorrow. Over his body will be placed the foundation stone for the new gate on the eastern wall." "Why on his body?" asked his wife, horrified. "Because we need a Brahmin who is old, toothless, and bald. Ha ha ha." The priest's wife kept quiet. But as soon as the priest went to sleep, she sent her maidservant to inform the Pandit about what she heard from her husband. The Pandit not only escaped himself, but also asked as many old, toothless, and bald Brahmins to flee the city. They all disappeared overnight. The officer with some sepoys met the priest in the morning. The priest grew very proud at the fact that they were at his command. "Do you know the Pandit who lives behind the Shiva temple? Take hold of him and lead him to the site of the new gate. I shall be there before long. We must perform the rite today. Such an auspicious hour won't come before 12 years, the priest told the officer. The officer and his sepoys hurried to capture the Pandit, but he was not to be found. They reported the matter to the king. The king said, "Why don't you take hold of some other old Brahmin who is also toothless and bald?" "We'll do so, my lord," said the officer, and he hurried out. At noon, the officer met the king again and said, My lord, I regret to say that there is a sudden scarcity of Brahmins in the city who meet our requirement, save one. What prevents you from taking hold of that one? Asked the king. My lord, that one is none other than the priest himself. Should I capture him? The king looked pensive. After a moment, he said, What other go is there? It is a question of the city. You are right, my lord. And once we let the auspicious hour pass, it won't come again in 12 years, said the officer. The only question is, if the priest is the one to be buried, who is to perform the rite? Asked the king. My lord, there is a young man who is a brilliant scholar. He was one of the priest's disciples. He is now the principal of the Sanskrit Academy. The king had heard of the young scholar. He sent for him and asked him to do the needful. He also appointed him to the position of the royal priest. The officer and his party marched to the priest's house and took hold of him. I am sorry, sir, but all the old, bald, toothless Brahmins have suddenly become as rare as Gandharvas. I am sure you won't mind sacrificing yourself for the cause of the king and the city. The priest was dumbfounded. Till then, he had not realized the qualities that he had declared for one going to be sacrificed were glaringly present in his own person. He too was old, bald, and toothless. It was too late to remember his own face. There was no escape for him. He was dragged to the site of the gate. The young scholar was already there to perform the rite, though he was not sure what rite it was. He was shocked to see his mentor brought there like a beast to be sacrificed, his hands bound. What brought about such a situation, sir? He asked the old priest in a highly difficult speech which nobody but his mentor alone understood. In the same style, the old priest replied, confessing to his own mischief. The young scholar assured him that he will try his best to save him. He made some calculation and told the officer that the old priest was wrong in determining the auspicious hour. The hour was to come at midnight. He then pretended to take the old priest to task for his wrong calculation. The old priest also showed as if he felt ashamed for his mistake. When it was midnight, the young scholar told the officer and the others that nobody should be present at the site when the rite was to be performed. Accordingly, all backed away and stood at some distance. The young scholar led the old priest into the pit dug for the foundation. He cut the rope with which he was bound and smeared him with dark ashes so that he could escape under the cover of darkness, and advised him to flee the city. While the young scholar recited his hymns loudly and filled up the pit himself, the old priest ran for his life. So friends, this funny story reminds us of that old saying, he who digs a pit for others falls into it himself. Thank you.